Good morning again. My name is Sridhar Devuskar. I'm a technical architect in the VCE Coalition's Solutions Engineering Lab based out here in Santa Clara. And my colleagues whom I'll be presenting with today, we're going to be actually Hari Kannan, who is a senior technologist and the architect of the Vblock actually. But unfortunately, due to a last-minute emergency, he cannot be here today. So today I'll be presenting with Radha and Brian Ho, two of my fellow technical architects whom I work with in the Solutions Engineering Lab that belongs to the VCE Coalition over here in Santa Clara. What I'm going to do is I'm going to give all of you a high-level presentation about what the Vblock is, kind of set expectations, set a baseline, and then Radha is going to talk about some of the considerations for deploying virtual desktops on the Vblocks, and maybe present some of the tests that we were running, actually as late as last night, talk about some of the results of those tests and considerations for running desktops on the Vblock. And then finally, Brian will speak about why the Vblock makes for an excellent platform for running Tier 1 applications and SAP in particular on the Vblock. So let me first begin by defining what is a Vblock. And a Vblock is a pre-integrated, tested, and validated package combining the best-of-breed technologies from the three companies that make up the coalition, namely VMware, Cisco, and EMC. Typically what happens is customers go about deploying the virtual environment. They go about acquiring hardware, the compute resources, the networking resources, storage resources, so on and so forth. And then they invest a great deal of time, effort, money into integrating all these disparate pieces of hardware together in rolling out a virtual environment. Well, with a Vblock, they don't have to do that anymore. A Vblock allows you to rapidly deploy a virtual computing environment. The second thing with the Vblocks is since they have predictable performance, which has been tested and validated, and they have predictable operational considerations, they make for driving towards a service level driven approach much better. Apart from that, they have a number of benefits, and some of those benefits are, I think the first main benefit is the fact that they reduce complexity. And because they reduce complexity, your risks in the data center are reduced, and as a result, operational expenditures, operational costs are reduced as well. Secondly, they allow you to scale gracefully within your environment. And as a result, you can either add or subtract depending upon your business demand. IT services can be deployed very rapidly to meet any existing needs of your business. And lastly, they integrate very well with any existing security or management frameworks that you may have within your data center. So there is no retraining necessary, no retooling necessary. They will plug in as is within any of your existing management, automation, and security frameworks. So currently, we offer three different types of Vblocks. The Vblock 0 is an entry-level configuration that's primarily meant for small production-ready production-ready workloads, or it's also excellent for test and dev environments. The Vblock 1 is a mid-level configuration. Primarily, it has capabilities for servicing a broad variety of workloads. And then finally, we have the Vblock 2, which is actually our high-end configuration to meet the most demanding of our workloads, typically Tier 1 applications, SAP, Exchange, that sort of thing. The whole goal behind the Vblocks is to drive towards this policy-driven architecture. And by that, I mean this ability to take down business requirements and then translate them into IT services, and basically then map them into Vblock templates, which get deployed as Vblock resources on demand when required. And Brian will probably talk about how templates are used when deploying SAP servers. Hari was going to talk about how to use templates when deploying desktops. Radha will probably talk a little bit more on that. Finally, the VCE Coalition offers seamless support. We have one phone number to call for any support needs. And my colleague Hari points out that, or usually likes to remind me, that we introduced two products. The first product was the Vblock itself, and the second product is actually this unified support model. Customers have this one number to call, one person, one throat to choke for any support needs. And the motivation actually behind that is the fact that we feel that we can drive efficiencies. With this prepackaged model, any issues that our customers will face will probably be similar issues, and those can be resolved faster and will drive down the time for resolution of those issues. So that's the motivation behind offering the single number for support for the Vblock. And to talk about Vue and how Vue got deployed at EMC is Radha.
Now? Okay, that's good. Isn't it good, because we are all talking about virtualization, and I'm actually here standing in the place of Hari. It's almost like they literally imported his profile into me 15 minutes ago. Okay, so I'll try to do the justice as much as possible, because I don't have a clue of what is there in the content there, but I have been involved heavily with the architecting this solution. So if you guys want to ask questions, I would answer them better, but I'll look through the slides and see what I can talk to them, basically. I don't know how many of you don't know about EMC. We are a $14 billion revenue company, and just Deshkar talked about, Sudhakar talked about the VCE Coalition. We are one of the partners of the VCE Coalition, and where in our labs we help create the Vblocks. So I'm going to talk about one of the use cases for Vblock, where we tried creating the most talked about, I would say, use case, the VDI. I would like to know how many of you are implementing or thinking about implementing VDI. I can say it's almost like 30% of the room. That's a good sign. Let me briefly introduce the Vblock advantages. So is the right direction I'm going in? Yes, okay. So the Vblock 1 is, EMC has two product lines, major two product lines. One is the Symmetrix product line, or Vmax, the newer generation of it, and the unified storage product line. The Vblock 1 is actually created with the unified storage version of the product line, whereas Vblock 2 is based on Vmax. So we can deploy up to like 8,000 VMs on a type 1 Vblock, which is based on unified storage. The reason we call it unified is we can do file, block, and every kind of service in the same box. On the type 2 Vblock, actually, it is 1,000 to up to 4,000 desktops on Vblock 1, and up to 8,000 desktops on Vblock 2. And there was also some testing going on Vblock 0. We don't have numbers here, but it was listed in the previous slide. So we did lots of testing with every version of Vue that is released so far. What I'm going to talk about is a Vue 4.0, and some of you might know that Vue 4.5 is already announced or is going to be announced at this VMworld. So we are, in fact, doing the testing on Vue 4.5, but I have some early results that I can share with you guys. In Vue 4.5, we wanted to make it more like a more relevant use case for today, because Vue 4.0 was done with Windows XP, and everybody wants to move towards Windows 7. So in the Vue 4.5 testing, we are actually trying to test with Win 7, both 32-bit and 64-bit. And on top of it, he just talked about the VBlock itself. We have the backup and recovery feature, because any kind of VBlock solution that we test every aspect of it, because as a customer, you guys care about how I acquire it, how I manage it, and how I secure and whatnot, right? So we try to cover like how you can back up and how you can actually implement the recovery kind of solutions. And some of these slides will talk to those. So we see a view on 1 and 2, like type VBlock type 1 and 2. We, rather than actually taking, I have seen some of our competition basically trying to just take one simple sub-use case, I would say, whether we are able to deploy these VMs or not. It's not just enough if you can simply deploy these VMs. These VMs should be able to support some of your SLAs. And that's the reason we went and actually tried running the real-world workloads on it. We use a tool that is actually built by VMware itself called ROC. It's a reference architecture workload. I don't know what C stands for. But what it is trying to do is, it is simulating the typical user of, we actually can classify the users as power users. I would say the other user is typically running the Microsoft applications, I think most of us, including Outlook. I think that covers 80% of the user base that is out there. So we took each and every application, and the ROC is a very beautiful tool. You can actually pick and choose what applications are running, what rate they are running. For example, if you choose Word, you can set one user profile as he is typing like maybe 50 words per minute or 10 words per minute. I can go up to that granularity. If you guys are interested, we can give you that profile, because some of our white papers clearly talk about some of those profiles that we used. And we also tested the security, backup, and disaster recovery solutions when we are actually building out this solution. 30% of you raised your hands. That means you should know already how Vue is deployed. But for the other people, like I'll just briefly cover. So there is your Vue manager, which is like the broker, which is in fact accepting the connections from your virtual desktop, basically the front-end connections. They could either be coming from iPad nowadays, or they could be coming from another desktop as a Vue client, or these WISE kind of hardware devices. In our solution, we actually simulated the real-world users by simulating a lot of virtual desktops, and they would instantiate a connection into the back-end desktop. So actually the Vue manager, Vue broker, is actually masking all the virtual desktops from you, and any kind of interaction has to happen through the Vue manager. So you go there, then depending on your access privileges that you're granted, or entitlements, they call it, you can actually pick a desktop and then start working on it. And similarly, we secured the environment with RSA suite of products, which is one of our EMC's company. We use RSA DLP for protection of the data within the virtual desktop, and we used RSA secure key for authentication. Similarly, for backup and recovery, we used AOMR, which is a VM level, and also you can actually do the backup at the server level if you're not running virtual desktops. I think there is one slide which describes that. So this is the comprehensive backup and restore I just was talking about. So it's like in our company, we have AOMR agent running on your laptops all the time, and it is backing up all your data. Similarly, we took the same agent and put it inside a VM. That means these VMs are getting backed up. Rather than trying to back up every VM at the same time, the standard operating procedures, like we pick up some set of VMs to back up at certain time. So as far as the DR feature goes, we used VMware's SRM for implementing the disaster recovery. I think the slide speaks to itself. We have the SRM typically configured, and we have tested various failure scenarios, like failing one server and failing the entire site. So let us look into what is the details of the configuration that we tested. We took Vblock 1, which can scale up to 4 chassis, Cisco chassis. And we put everything in the infrastructure is actually virtualized, including our Active Directory to VDM servers and everything. And we were using 2 view managers, and the load balancer was Cisco's basically ACE load balancer. That way we equally share the load between those 2 connection brokers. We tried both with RDP and PCORIP, and each has its own advantages depending on what applications you're running. But our primary focus was running the MS Office suite. So there are no graphics or anything involved, so the protocol wouldn't make much difference. And similarly, we used 2 vCenters because in Vue 4.0 timeframe, a single vCenter they were recommended to support up to maximum 2,000 users. So, but when you actually may have 2 and in a cascaded mode, it can support up to 10,000 desktops. So it was like 2,048 users is what we have tested, and the solution can linearly scale. Our goal was to see if we can accommodate 1,024 users per chassis. And Vblock 1 can go up to 1 chassis to 4 chassis. And as long as because the incremental cost of going from 1,000 to 2,000 to 4,000 is only, you have to size your storage back end properly, and everything else is taken care of, because Cisco UCS blades attached to the aggregator switch 6120, and they can support up to 4 chassis. I think 8 chassis, but in our configuration it was only 4. And let me talk briefly about what is the 225 clients. I said we tested with real world applications. That means we were also simulating the real users logging into the system. So we created 225 virtual desktops, and these virtual desktops, when they are reset, they will start up and they will launch 10 VDM clients into 10 virtual desktops. And they would be running this Office, all those kinds of applications. And ROC supports all those. Actually, they also ship the witness machines for you. That's what we were saying, 10 RDP sessions for each witness VM. And it would pick up, depending on the entitlements you did, 10 machines from the back-end virtual machines and start running the workload on them. So these were, like, people care more about what was the user experience. We were running the most standard applications, as I told earlier. We actually ran Office, PowerPoint, Adobe, and the timings we actually tried measuring, because ROC supports measuring those values. PDF open close, MS Office open close, and every other applications to start and stop. You would be asking me a question, why Outlook Open is so slow? Because we implemented the local PST files as the mailbox builds. Even when you start your Outlook on your desktop, it takes some time from the beginning. But after that, email sending was much faster. I think these latencies are quite acceptable because the user experience is pretty good. Instead of testing, putting the real world load, next few slides will talk about what was the system utilization when these 2,000 users were concurrently running on the system. I think I had to put a $10 penalty for those guys. Yeah. So this is actually, people care more about what is their utilization on the CPU, because I've seen in most of the production environments, the moment you see more than 70% utilization, people would start getting all these pagers, right? So we wanted to basically size the systems in such a way that our utilization is somewhere around 70%. CPU we just took one blade because it equally spreads all these users across all the available blades. We had 16 blades, and I'm just plotting what happened on one server over there. The CPU utilization was somewhere around 70%. And similarly, the memory utilization is still around 70, max was 70%. In fact, we were getting a lot of page sharing going on. We have taken 2,000 desktops, and 25% of them were running with 1 gig memory. This was XP, right? And remaining were running with 512 MB. I don't think even my daughter would accept a 512 MB VM nowadays, right? But we were getting a lot of actually page sharing going on. That's why, even though we had overcommitted our memory, the memory utilization was still kept under 70%. So let us look at what happened to the disk. On the disk side, we had basically NS960, and we were doing around 15,000 IOPS. This was with 2,000 users. Each user is doing around 8 IOPS. This was during the steady state. Suddenly the question would come like, what would happen during the boot storm, right? See, boot storm, it is expected because the system is designed in such a way that it can support up to 25,000 IOPS. Then the users would start staggering, yes. The question is how many spindles? We used 15K RPM spindles in the background. But one good news is with Vue 4.5, they support tiering in their solution. So you can actually to meet the boot storm scenarios, you can just put some few flash drives, maybe 5 or 6 or even lower, depending on your user requirement, and put your base image over there. That way even the boot storms can be handled very fast. And as far as I think each server was experiencing around 30 megabytes. I think when we talk about IOPS, the megabytes doesn't matter, but still we threw that graph there for you guys. And the latencies were around 7.5 milliseconds there, which is pretty good. In fact, anything below 10 milliseconds is good. But if you had a lot of new technologies have evolved lately, because EMC has introduced a couple of days ago a technology called fast and fast cache, whereby you can actually build a pool of storage with 3 different drive types, some flash, some SATA, and some fiber. What would happen is the algorithms would just monitor the temperature at every 1 gig granularity, and they keep moving these 1 gigs around to write tiers. That way, in fact, if we do our testing with the latest technologies, this would be much faster because every application has a temporal locality to it. You don't look at any data which was 2 months old or something. So as long as you provide good SLAs for that latest data, it is really good. Similarly, fast cache can take care of your sudden surges in workloads where it actually tries looking at the I/O and immediately starts promoting, because the fast, which is a pool technology, is more of a reactive, I would say. It will monitor the temperature for a day. At the end of the day, it will actually move the slices around. But fast cache is more like it can move the slices dynamically, and it reacts pretty fast. So by using both of these technologies, you can create bigger and bigger storage pools and still provide very good latencies for your applications. In fact, that's being tested. I'm not going to talk about those slides here, but just I was giving a heads up. And the storage level latencies, it was 7.5 milliseconds at the application level. That's what ESX server sees. But if you go and look at the storage level latencies, they were around 2.5 milliseconds. Because not every time your ESX is doing only one I/O. For example, there is a transaction, it does a couple of I/Os. So that 7.5 milliseconds is a cumulative I/O that it is reporting. Whereas this 2.5 milliseconds is actually what you are observing at the storage level, array level basically. And the use case validation, I think it talks to most of the points I just told. As we did the testing for 2,000 users, that means the solution can easily scale up to 4,000, as long as you change, because as I said, the requirement is like 56 drives. Now you put 112 drives and then add 2,000 more users, the system will be able to handle that load, because the storage controller that we designed can scale beyond 30,000, 40,000 IOPS, and we were seeing only around 15,000 IOPS. That way we have, and also for another reason we did that, because even though we went with 8 IOPS, we went and talked to a couple of customers. They gave their requirements anywhere from 4 IOPS to 22 IOPS. And we assumed a read-to-write ratio of 80-20 in our applications. I have seen customers saying they have 50-50. I'm not saying you can completely forget about the storage sizing. You still have to do your good old storage sizing. But we have actually built the Vblocks in such a way that you can order them and you can actually grow them as you want. More disks, just add more disks. Basically, the chassis, you can add more chassis. Any questions so far? Otherwise, I'll give it to Brian, who is going to talk about the SAP use case. That's good. Thank you.
Oh, hang on a second. Can you pass it to Sridhar? Hello, can you hear me? Good morning. How's everyone doing? Oops. So how many of you actually run SAP in your company? Can we see your hand raised? Not many. So about 3 months ago, the VC Coalition, together with its partner, mainly SAP America and Accenture, successfully conducted a POC at the VC Cloud Lab at Santa Clara. The POC is actually for a large clothing retailer who makes jeans, famous blue jeans, actually based out here in San Francisco. So the challenges that the customers is facing nowadays is, just like any other customers who run SAP in their company. How many of you who runs SAP nowadays actually scale your SAP to min while size it to max? Nobody, huh? Okay. So the company, the customer actually came to us and, facing all these challenges. Basically, they are being pigeonholed into single vendor, mainly HP. And they're actually running the Intel Itanium Superdome processor. The need to migrate to commodity x86 platform is a must in order to cut down costs. So customer came to us, they wanted us to do a proof of concept for them. Some of the objectives and goals that they like us to show them is they want us to show them by running their SAP 7.5 terabytes of database on the Vblock architecture, we're able to show them equal or better performance. At the same time, they want us to show them using the Vblock architecture, we're able to better demonstrate the UCS stateless computing system, to better scale and better deploy their SAP landscape on demand basis. And also, last but not least, they wanted us to show them how to reduce TCO and better improve SLAs. So together with the coalition partners and SAP and Accenture, we conducted the POC. We were able to show them not just that running their SAP platform using the x86 Vblock architecture, performance not just improved by approximately or even 65% and over. We can actually show them it runs cheaper. So why is SAP fit for running on Vblock? What are some of the advantages that you might ask, what can Vblock be so good to running our SAP environment? Back in the good old days, or should I say present day, how much effort does it actually take for you to provision or to implement or deploy an SAP landscape? A lot, right? You're talking about from a network administrator to provision the network IPs and all these network requirements. You're talking about having your storage administrator carving out lawns, creating storage group, creating masking views and zones and everything in order to come up with storage that are necessary to deploy SAP. And then you talk about Oracle or any kind of database administrator, installing and provisioning all the database requirements. And last but not least, your SAP administrator finally came in and, do the magic of installing SAP and make it run and configuring it, right? With Vblock, things change. If you remember the 4 steps that I just mentioned to you, we're now cutting it to 2 steps. Through the EMC Ionics Infrastructure Manager, Unified Infrastructure Manager, you are able to provision storage network compute using one single pane of glass, okay, to provision all these 3 requirements. Now, we're not here to take away jobs, okay? We're by no means take away the storage administrator, the Unix administrator, as well as the network administrator jobs. We're here to create jobs for California. It's a new learning skill for everybody. So together with another key value proposition about Vblock is that the Vblock itself is being built using standardized components of the three companies, EMC, VMware, and Cisco. EMC storage itself is famous for building redundancy and business continuity, as well as high availability. Vblock itself also offers the so-called multi-tier architecture. It allows you to run your SAP system either 100% physical, 100% virtual, or in mixed mode. You can do an 80-20 physical virtual, or vice versa, 30-70. Another good value of Vblock is that it allows you to, over time, easily scale and flexibly expand your Vblock architecture, either by acquiring another Vblock component or by just going out there, adding another Vblock storage or Vblock compute system from Cisco. Now, I'm not here to sell Cisco, as you all know. In terms of security, Vblock offers RSA integration, most importantly with Envision, which is the reporting and monitoring tools for from RSA, as well as single sign-on and data loss prevention capabilities. One good thing about the Cisco UCS stateless computing system is that by using the, the service template profile, you can quickly change the personality of a blade server in no less than 5 minutes. Let's just say 10 minutes ago, you have a need to add another mailbox. I don't know, like maybe 1,000 mailbox to to your IT infrastructure, to your Microsoft Outlook or Exchange server landscape. You can quickly unhook or dissociate the service template profile that is originally associated to a Microsoft web server. Just take out the personality. In no time, using the UIM infrastructure manager, you can swap the service template profile that are related to a Microsoft Exchange server, and then in no time, you can turn that blade into a Microsoft Exchange-related server. Vblock offers multi-tenancy. You can have, in one Vblock itself, within the chassis, you can have multiple enterprise application running in it. You can have your Outlooks, or Exchange or SharePoint running side by side together with your enterprise applications such as CRM or SAP or ERP, or even Oracle e-Business Suite. Again, I'm not here to sell Oracle. Currently, UCS, the Cisco Unified Computing System, is being certified with 2 different flavors, or should I say 3 different flavors of operating system. Just so you know, you can find this information on either the Cisco website or the SAP Product Availability Metrics website. The 3 different flavors of operating systems that are currently certified for UCS is Red Hat Linux 4.8 and above, SUSE Linux 10, and Microsoft Windows 2003 and above. Currently, Vblock is being offered in 2 different types of chipset. For the Nehalem chipset, which is a 2.53 gigahertz Intel Xeon base, the calculated SAPS is 17,580, whereas for the latest and greatest Westmere chipset from Intel is 26,480. In our Cloud Lab solutions in Santa Clara, we have created a SAP landscape that mimic about 1,250 concurrent users and 5,000 named users. The SAP module that we install in our Cloud Lab, VC Cloud Lab in Santa Clara, includes ERP ECC6 system, NetWeaver BI, which is the Business Warehouse 7.0, Solution Manager 7.0, and Enterprise Portal 7.0. The goals and objectives of our use cases are to show that using Vblock, we can simplify provisioning and operations, how we can quickly increase the flexibility and responsiveness of our customers' IT infrastructure by providing them the capability to quickly provision a new system on the fly. Monitoring SAP landscape by integrating the existing Cisco security hardening guide as well as the RSA technologies. we can better run your SAP in a more secure way. How many companies out there are currently using government risk compliance or SOX compliance? Most of the SAP companies are actually, unfortunately. So by running your SAP on the Vblock together with integration into RSA technologies such as single sign-on and RSA key, security key, you can actually better monitor and better secure your SAP environment. Last but not least, together with EMC storage, we offer high availability and disaster recovery for SAP landscape. All these joint testing are being done by Cisco, SAP, EMC, and VMware. This is the landscape that I'd like to show you for our VCE Cloud Lab in Santa Clara. The entire landscape is completely running on Oracle database together with Red Hat Linux 5.4. As you can see, we have created a virtual layer together with a physical layer. What does it mean by virtual? Virtual layer, basically, we have a UCS blade running on EXX, which is the vSphere 4.0. On the physical layer, it is pure blade server where we just install Red Hat Linux on top of it, on native. As you can see, we virtualize our Oracle database for Solution Manager, Enterprise Portal, and Business Intelligence up there at the left-hand corner. Then we have two different flavors of SAP ECC 6 system. One is the Enhancement Pack 4, where we use it for running SD benchmarking purposes, and the other one is the ERP SR3 for demoing purposes. Now, the ECC database, as you can see, sitting on the physical layers are actually on native, right? We didn't install any kind of hypervisor. We didn't install any kind of EXX or vSphere on top of it. So the database itself is purely running on native. The ECC central instance and dialog instance are actually installed on the EXX, sitting on the virtual layer at the top. All these are being connected to a backend storage of Symmetrix Vmax. Here are 8 of the use cases that we kind of conduct at the Santa Clara Innovation Lab on an ongoing basis. System provisioning is basically a how we demonstrate to our customer using the existing UCS service template profile. And also for the Symmetrix Vmax, we've got the storage template profile. And from EXX side, we've got the EXX host profile together with VMware virtual machine templates. We can quickly provision an SAP system or Microsoft Exchange system or a SharePoint system on the fly by using the EMC Ionix Unified Infrastructure Manager. For storage sharing, this is what Radha just mentioned to you. It's about the fast fully automated storage sharing 2.0 technology. It's an ongoing testing. Basically, what is it all about is you have a storage pool. You can create a storage pool that consists of different types of storage devices, EFD, SATA, fiber channel. Just imagine, during year-end closing, you have your salespeople, you have your financial people, super users, logging onto your SAP system, hampering your SAP system, trying to close the books, trying to close the sales, trying to log all kind of records and that stuff. Imagine that you have 10 or 20 top mostly used SAP tables sitting out there, okay, residing on your fiber channel disk. And business, is kind of sweating all night trying to make sure that everybody meets its deadline of closing the books on time. Imagine you have this fast 2.0 technology which allows you to move these 20 SAP tables from a fiber channel and upgrade it to a EFD, either automatically or semi-automatically or manually. Solution management, which is what I just mentioned to you, is a UIM piece of the Ionix, where you can monitor your SAP together with your virtual machines, giving you a holistic type of view. Security test I mentioned to you before is the joint venture kind of thing between Cisco, hardening guy, and also the RSA security technologies. SAP VM mobility, Here we tested different kind of technologies that are, in the backend utilizing the VMware vMotions, whether it's long distance, short distance, as well as DRS. Local recovery of SAP corruption here, through the using of replication manager or recover point, we're able to kind of create a scenario where we replicate SAP failure over to a local site or a remote site. Again, UCS-based server is just another flavor of testing the Cisco UCS service template profile. We're able to recover a blade in no more than 15 minutes. P2V migration is something that I did over here. I just showed you the slide previously where we created an ECC6 system where the database is sitting physical. Part of the P2V migrations, the so-called physical to virtual migration, is that we conducted tests on Oracle database sitting on physical, and then later on we're going to migrate the LUNs using RDM over to virtual site and attach it to virtual machines and run SD benchmark to generate results. And then from there, we will compare between the physical and virtual to see, what are the delta percentage of running your databases, whether it's SQL, DB2, UDB, Informix, Sybase, whatever, on physical and virtual. We want to show you the overhead is no more than 15 to 20%. It's an ongoing process. So why Vblock is good for running your enterprise applications? Again, key value proposition about Vblock is that all these three companies combined, they come up with all standardized components, okay? EMC has its fast technology that I just mentioned to you. It has its virtual thin provisioning technology together with storage templates for the Symmetrix VMAX. On the Cisco side, the Cisco UCS has service templates profile, which change the personality of your blade on the fly, on-demand basis. And from VMware, you've got the ESX host profile together with virtual machine templates. All this together gives you the capability to conduct end-to-end templatized-based provisioning using EMC IONX Unified Infrastructure Manager. Again, Vblock supports multi-tier architecture, whether it's fully virtualized, fully physical, or in mixed mode. VMware, Cisco, and EMC came up with this integrated IT infrastructure that are encapsulated into one single cabinet of goods. Okay. As business increases and the demands for more IT resources increases, you can feasibly and easily scale your IT infrastructure, either by going out there purchasing another Vblock of the same type or of lesser type, or you can just go out there and purchase more storage or more compute system. Vblock is good because it's pre-integrated, pre-tested, fully optimized, ready to go and ready to go. Here are some technical documentation that we have prepared and we have made available on either the Cisco, EMC, or VMware website. And if you guys want anything, going forward after this meeting today, we can actually send it out to you. And if you have 5 minutes, we would appreciate if you can fill up the survey form. And again, thank you, Sridhar, thank you, Radha, for coming out here today, and thanks to you all for showing up so early today, and we really appreciate you being here. Thanks.